independent vectors. Now if we have the condition, that is alpha 1 times a1 plus alpha 2 times a2 plus alpha 3 times a3 and so on up to alpha n times an equal to 0. Here we know that a1, a2, a3 and so on are a set of vectors. Also alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 and so on up to alpha n are scalars. Now if these scalars alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 and so on are not all 0, then such a set is called as linearly dependent vectors. Thus we see that a1, a2, a3 and so on up to an are called as linearly dependent vectors in this case. Now if we say that alpha 1 times a1 plus alpha 2 times a2 and so on up to alpha n times an equal to 0, such that it implies alpha 1 equal to alpha 2 equal to alpha 3 equal to so on up to alpha n equal to 0. That is, if all these scalars are equal to 0, then we say that this is linearly independent set of vectors. Thus we say that if alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3 and so on up to alpha n are not all 0, then this is a set of linearly dependent vectors, and if all these scalars are equal to 0, then this is known as a linearly independent set of vectors. Now the test for collinearity. Now in most of the problems we have been asked to check the collinearity of points. So let's try to understand the test for collinearity. 3 points A, B, C with position vectors A, B and C are collinear if and only if there exist scalars x, y, z not all 0 such that x times A plus y times B plus z times C equal to 0, where x plus y plus z equal to 0. Now it says that if we have got any 3 points A, B, C with position vectors A, B and C, then they are collinear only if there exists some scalars x, y, z not all equal to 0 such that x times A plus y times B plus z times C equal to 0 and x plus y plus z equal to 0. So the condition between these scalars is x plus y plus z equal to 0. They should not all be equal to 0, and x times A plus y times B plus z times C equal to 0. So if these conditions hold, we say that A, B, C are the points which are collinear. And similarly we can say that 4 points A, B, C, D with position vectors A, B, C, D are coplanar if and only if there exist scalars x, y, z such that x times A plus y times B plus z times C plus w times t equal to 0 and x plus y plus z plus w equal to 0. So these are the conditions which we need to remember. Now let's try to solve a few IIT problems. Now this problem appeared in IITJ 1983 and it says that the points with the position vectors 60 times I cap plus 3j cap, the next is 40 I cap minus 8j cap and A times I cap minus 52 times j cap are collinear if option number A is A equal to minus 40, option number B is A equal to 40, option number C is A equal to 20 and option number D is none of these. So in this problem it has been asked that there are 3 points with position vector 60 times I cap plus 3j cap, 40 I cap minus 8j cap and A times I cap minus 52 times j cap. Now these points are collinear and we have been given the 4 options. We have to find out the value of A. So let's check out the solution of this. Let us say that the position vector of point A is equal to 60 times I cap plus 3 times j cap. Position vector of point B is equal to 40 times I cap minus 8 times j cap. Position vector of point C is equal to A times I cap minus 52 times j cap. Now it has been given that these points are collinear. Now AB vector would be equal to position vector of B minus the position vector of point A. So this would be equal to minus 20 times I cap minus 11 times j cap. Similarly AC would be equal to position vector of C minus position vector of A, and this would be equal to A minus 60 times I cap minus 55 times j cap. Now given that AB and AC are collinear, so we can write AB as equal to lambda times AC vector. Thus your lambda is any scalar and unknown. Minus 20 times I cap minus 11 times j cap would be equal to lambda times A minus 60 times I cap minus 55 times j cap. So what we do is we compare the coefficients of I cap and j cap to get minus 20 equal to lambda times A minus 60 and minus 11 equal to minus 55 times lambda. So this gives the value of lambda equal to 1 by 5, and when we put this value here we get minus 20 equal to 1 by 5 into a minus 60, and thus a is equal to minus 40. Thus the final value of a is equal to minus 40. Let's try to solve another problem. This problem appeared in ITJ 1986. It says that a vector A has the components 2p and 1 with respect to a rectangular Cartesian system. Now this system is rotated through a certain angle about the origin in the counterclockwise sense. If with respect to a new system A has the components p plus 1 and 1, then option number A is p equal to 0, option number B is p equal to 1 or p equal to minus 1 by 3, option number C is p equal to minus 1 or p equal to 1 by 3, and option number D is p equal to 1 or p equal to minus 1. So in this problem it has been given that any vector A has got the components 2p and 1 with respect to the rectangular Cartesian system. Now what we do is we rotate this Cartesian system anti-clockwise through a certain angle about the origin. Now of course this system has been rotated, so this vector A with respect to the new system has the components p plus 1 and p, and we have to find the value of p, given us the 4 options. So let's look at the solution of this. We have been given that the components of vector A along the rectangular Cartesian system is 2p and 1. Therefore we can write vector A as equal to 2p times I cap plus j cap. Now this vector has been rotated through a certain angle. Let us say that a new vector is formed which is equal to b. Also given that the components of this new vector are p plus 1 and 1. Therefore we can write vector b as equal to p plus 1 times I cap plus j cap. Thus a new vector is p plus 1 times I cap plus j cap. Now in the problem it has been given that the vector has been rotated. So we can come to the conclusion that the direction of this vector changes, but the magnitude would remain the same because this vector has just been rotated. Thus what we do is we equate the magnitudes of these two vectors. Now the square of magnitude of this vector would be equal to the square of magnitude of this vector, and thus 4p square plus 1 would be equal to p plus 1 whole square plus 1. This gets further transformed to 4p square plus 1 equal to, we expand this to get p square plus 1 plus 2p plus 1. Thus the final quadratic equation which we get is 3p square minus 2p minus 1 equal to 0, and the roots of this equation are p equal to minus 1 by 3 or p equal to 1. Thus the values which p can take are minus 1 by 3 or equal to 1. Say that option number B is correct. Let's try to see one more example. This appeared in ITJ 1982, and it says that find all the values of lambda such that x, y, z are equal to 0, 0, 0, and such that I cap plus j cap plus 3 times k cap times x plus 3 I cap minus 3 j cap plus k cap times y plus minus 4 times I cap plus 5 j cap times z equal to lambda times x I cap plus y j cap plus z k cap, where I, j, k are unit vectors along the coordinate axis. So in this problem we have to find the values of lambda such that this equation hold, and I, j, k are the unit vectors along coordinate axis. So let's look at the solution of this. We have been given this equation. Now from this we have to solve the problem. So what we do is we compare the coefficients of I cap, j cap and k cap. Thus when we compare the coefficients of I cap, we get the equation x plus 3y minus 4z equal to lambda x, which is equal to 1 minus lambda times x plus 3y minus 4z equal to 0. Similarly, when we compare the coefficients of j cap, we get x minus 3y plus 5z equal to lambda times y, or x minus 3 plus lambda times y plus 5z equal to 0. And when we compare the coefficients of k cap, we get 3x plus y equal to lambda z, or 3x plus y minus lambda z equal to 0. Thus we get 3 such equations when we compare the coefficients of I cap, j cap and k cap. Now given that x, y, z not equal to 0, 0, 0, thus we are going to solve for non-trivial solutions, and for this system to have non-trivial solution, the determinant should be equal to 0. Now the determinant of the system is 1 minus lambda, 3 minus 4, 1 minus of 3 plus lambda, 5, and 3, 1 and minus lambda. So this determinant should be equal to 0. Now when we expand the determinant, we get 1 minus lambda times lambda into 3 plus lambda minus 5 minus 3 into minus lambda minus 15 minus 4 times 1 plus 3 times lambda plus 3 equal to 0. Or this further gets reduced to 1 minus lambda into lambda square plus 3 lambda minus 5 minus 3 times minus lambda minus 15 minus 4 times 3 lambda plus 10 equal to 0. So this gives lambda cube plus 2 lambda square plus lambda equal to 0, or lambda into lambda plus 1 whole square equal to 0. So from this we get either lambda is equal to 0 or lambda is equal to minus 1. Thus we get two values of lambda for which the equation is satisfied, and which are lambda equal to 0 and lambda equal to minus 1. Hi students, and welcome to the second part of vectors. In the first part we have discussed about the different types of vectors, their algebra, combination of vectors, their representation in 1D, 2D and 3D, and solved a few IIT problems. Now in this lecture we are going to discuss about the dot product, cross product, scalar triple product, vector triple product of vectors, the reciprocal system of vectors, and see some of the applications of vectors in our day-to-day lives. So let's get started. This entire lecture revolves around the discussion of product of vectors or the multiplication of vectors. So basically there are two types of product of vectors. The first is the dot product and the second is the cross product. Dot product is also known as scalar product and cross product is also known as the vector product. Why this is known as a scalar product? Because the dot product of two vectors results into a scalar quantity. And why this is known as vector product? Because the cross product of two vectors is a vector. Thus there are two types of product of vectors. First is the dot product, also known as the scalar product, and the second is cross product, known as vector product. So let's begin with the first type of product of vectors, that is the dot product, which is also known as scalar product. Now the dot product of two vectors A and B is denoted by A dot B, and this is equal to the number modulus of vector A into modulus of vector B into cos theta. So we see that this is a scalar quantity, this is also a scalar quantity, and this is again a scalar quantity. So this is actually a number and not a vector. Thus the dot product of two vectors A and B is denoted by A dot B and is equal to modulus of A vector into modulus of B vector into cos theta. Here theta is the angle between these two vectors. So if we say that this is any vector A and this is any vector B, and if we say that theta is the angle between these two vectors, then A dot B is equal to modulus of A vector into modulus of B vector into cos theta. This is called as the magnitude of vector A and this is called as the magnitude of vector B. Now if we closely try to see at this figure, this is a right angle triangle. This is the angle theta, this is 90 degree. The length of this side is nothing but the magnitude of vector A, and so this side would be equal to modulus of vector A into cos of theta. Now A dot B is equal to modulus of vector A into modulus of vector B into cos of theta. Thus this is the dot product or the scalar product of two vectors. Now if we say that theta is acute or the angle between the two vectors is acute, then the dot product would be positive. Similarly, if we say that theta is obtuse, then product would be negative. Thus the dot product would be negative if theta is obtuse angle, and if theta is a right angle, then product is 0, because cos